Franz Reichelt, the flying tailor. Franz Reichelt was a successful tailor in Paris who had a big dream. He wanted to invent a suit that could turn into a parachute. He believed that pilots could use his invention to survive if they had to jump from a plane. He spent years sewing and testing small models with dummies, but they often failed. Eventually, he decided he had to prove his invention worked by testing it himself. On a cold morning in 1912, he climbed to the top of the Eiffel Tower. A crowd of reporters and police gathered below. Even though his friends begged him not to jump, Franz was confident. He stepped onto the ledge, hesitated for a moment, and then jumped. Suddenly, the parachute suit didn't open. He fell straight to the ground and died instantly. His tragic jump was caught on film, making it one of the first recorded disasters of the 20th century. William Bullock, the printing press. William Bullock was an American inventor who changed the world of newspapers. In 1863, he invented a new kind of rotary printing press that could print on both sides of a continuous roll of paper. It was much faster than any other machine at the time. His invention helped news travel quickly across the country. However, the machine that made him famous also led to his end. In 1867, Bullock was helping to install one of his presses at a newspaper office in Philadelphia. He tried to kick a drive belt onto a pulley with his foot, but his leg got caught in the heavy machinery. His leg was crushed. A few days later, he developed a terrible infection called gangrene. He died during the operation to amputate his leg. The very machine he built to spread knowledge ended up taking his life. Horace Lawson Hunley, the Iron Coffin. During the American Civil War, Horace Lawson Hunley wanted to build a secret weapon for the South, a submarine. He designed a hand-powered boat called the H.L. Hunley. It was a long, narrow iron tube that could travel underwater. However, the submarine was very dangerous. During early tests, it sank twice, killing several crew members. Despite the danger, Hunley decided to lead a test himself on October 15, 1863. While the submarine was underwater, something went wrong, and it failed to surface. Hunley and his entire 8-man crew drowned at the bottom of the ocean. The submarine was later found and raised, and it eventually became the first submarine in history to sink an enemy ship. But for Hunley, his invention became his own iron coffin. Thomas Midgley Jr. The bed of death. Thomas Midgley Jr. was a famous chemist who invented leaded gasoline and CFCs, chemicals used in fridges. Later in life, he became very sick with polio, which left him paralyzed and unable to get out of bed. Being an inventor, he didn't want to rely on other people to move him. He designed a complex system of ropes and pulleys over his bed so he could lift himself up. One morning in 1944, the invention failed in a tragic way. While he was trying to use the machine, he got tangled in the ropes. He couldn't move his arms to free himself, and the ropes tightened around his neck. His own invention strangled him to death. Midgley is often called the man who had the most impact on the atmosphere because of his chemicals, but he is also remembered for the machine that took his life. Marie Curie. The price of discovery. Marie Curie is one of the most famous scientists in history. She discovered two new elements, polonium and radium. Her work led to the invention of X-rays and treatments for cancer. Back then, scientists didn't know that radiation was dangerous. Marie used to carry tubes of radioactive material in her pockets and keep them in her desk drawers because she loved the way they glowed in the dark. After years of working with these glowing materials, the radiation began to destroy her body. She became very weak and lost her sight. In 1934, she died from a blood disease caused by long-term exposure to radiation. Even today, her notebooks and her personal items are still radioactive and must be kept in lead boxes. She gave her life to science, and her discoveries continue to save millions of people today. Henry Smolinski, the flying Ford Pinto. In the early 1970s, Henry Smolinski had a vision. He wanted everyone to have a flying car. He started a company called Advanced Vehicle Engineers. His idea was to take a regular car, a Ford Pinto, and attach the wings and tail of a small airplane to it. He called his invention the Aviation. He believed this would be the future of transportation. In 1973, Smolinski and his partner took the flying car for a test flight in California. Shortly after takeoff, one of the wings detached from the car. The vehicle plummeted from the sky and crashed into a tree, exploding on impact. Both men were killed. The dream of the flying car died with them that day. It was a reminder that combining two different machines into one can be a very risky business. Alexander Bogdanov. The blood experiment. Alexander Bogdanov was a Russian doctor and philosopher who believed he had found the secret to eternal youth. He thought that by giving people blood transfusions from younger people, he could stop aging and cure diseases. He was so sure of his theory that he performed 11 blood transfusions on himself. He claimed his eyesight improved and he felt younger. However, in 1928, he took blood from a student who had malaria and tuberculosis. Bogdanov's body had a terrible reaction to the new blood. His kidneys failed, and he died shortly after. The student, amazingly, survived and made a full recovery. Bogdanov wanted to live forever through his invention, but instead, his curiosity led to a fatal mistake. Sylvester Roper. The first motorcycle crash. Sylvester Roper was an American inventor who was obsessed with speed. In the 1860s, he built one of the first motorcycles, a bicycle powered by a small steam engine. It was a loud, smoking machine that could go quite fast for its time. Roper spent years riding his steam velocipede around his town, shocking his neighbors. In 1896, at the age of 72, Roper took his latest model to a bicycle track in Boston to show off its speed. He was flying around the track at 40 miles per hour when the bike began to wobble. He crashed and died on the spot. Some people think he had a heart attack before the crash, but others believe the speed of his own invention was simply too much for him. He died doing exactly what he loved. Max Valier. The rocket man Max Valier was a pioneer in rocket science in Germany. He believed that rockets could be used for more than just fireworks. He wanted to use them for cars and planes. In the 1920s, he built several rocket-powered cars that reached incredible speeds. His goal was to eventually build a rocket ship that could reach space. In 1930, Valier was testing a new type of rocket engine that used liquid fuel. While he was working in his lab, the engine suddenly exploded. A piece of metal hit him in the chest, and he died almost immediately. He was only 35 years old. Although he never made it to space, his work helped other scientists eventually land a man on the moon. He was a martyr for the future of space travel. Valerian Abakovsky. The aerowagon. Valerian Abakovsky was a young Soviet inventor who wanted to help government officials travel quickly across the vast country. He invented the aerowagon, which was a high-speed train car with an airplane engine and a propeller attached to the front. It looked like a mix between a bus and a plane, and it could travel at very high speeds on train tracks. In 1921, Abakovsky and a group of officials took the aerowagon for a test run from Moscow to a nearby city. The trip there was successful. However, on the way back, the aerowagon was traveling too fast. It derailed at a high speed and crashed. Abakovsky was only 25 years old when he died in the accident. The project was cancelled, and the aerowagon was never used again. Jean-François Pilator de Rosier. The first air crash in 1783. Jean-François Pilator de Rosier became a hero when he made the first human flight in a hot air balloon. But he wasn't satisfied with just one flight. He wanted to be the first person to fly across the English Channel from France to England. To do this, he created a new type of balloon that used both hot air and hydrogen gas. This was a very dangerous idea because hydrogen is highly flammable. On June 15, 1785, He took off with a companion. Halfway through the flight, the wind changed direction, and suddenly the balloon burst into flames. The balloon crashed onto the rocks below, killing both men. De Rosier became the first person to fly, but he also became the first person to die in an aviation accident. Thomas Andrews, the Titanic's designer Thomas Andrews, was the head architect of the most famous ship in the world, the Titanic. He spent years designing every detail of the massive vessel, making sure it was as luxurious and safe as possible. He believed the ship was practically unsinkable. When the Titanic set sail on its first voyage in 1912, Andrews was on board to make sure everything went perfectly. On the night of April 14th, the ship hit an iceberg. Andrews was the first to realize that his creation was doomed. He spent his final hours helping women and children into lifeboats and throwing chairs into the water to help people float. He was last seen standing alone in the first-class smoking room, looking at a painting of the sea. He went down with his ship, a creator staying with his greatest invention until the very end. Which invention shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more.